Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I just had a bowl of chili seasoned ramen, and my lips are burning. And I'm not a big fan of heat. So, if I start sweating, that's what it is. Okay. Oh, this was a mistake to eat that before this. Okay, this is part 4. The Battle of Jamal. Video. Oh, I'm sweating all over now. I mean, if you want to play. Oh, okay, there you go.
The people were fighting and killing each other in the dark. And then Ali radiallahu anhu got up and he asked, what's going on? And they said, they have betrayed us. And Talhah and Zubair on the other side, they get up and ask, what is happening? And they said, we're betrayed by the army of Ali. And it's difficult at this point to investigate. So then Ali radiallahu anhu sent to the leaders of the army of Aisha radiallahu anha. First he sends to Talhah. And Talhah radiallahu anhu comes to him. And they come close until the necks of their animals cross. And then Ali tells him, you have prepared men and you have prepared weapons. If you have prepared an excuse with Allah, am I not your brother in Islam? So what has made my blood halal all of a sudden? Talha tells him, you turned on us. And then Ali tells him, did you not pledge to me? And Talha says, I pledged to you with the sword at my neck. And then Ali tells him, you fight with me, and with me is Ammar. Because the Prophet ﷺ had said to Ammar that you will be killed by the transgressing party. So then Talha turns back and he starts to think about this. And then Ali sent a man to Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu. And when he reached Ali radiallahu anhu, he dismounts. And he goes to Ali radiallahu anhu, and Ali dismounts and he embraced him. And he said, Wallahi, I love you in Allah. And then Abdullah ibn Zubair says, and I wallahi love you for the sake of Allah. He tells him, woe to you, O son of my brother, what brings you here? He says, we came to seek revenge from the murderers of Uthman. And then Ali says, may Allah kill the murderers of Uthman. Then Abdullah Zubair leaves. And Zubair ibn al-Awam, his father, comes. And he comes close so that the necks of the riding animals cross.
Real fast. Why couldn't Ali look his soldiers in the eye? Like, have them all line up. Or whatever. And go down the line. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. I was going to say go down the line and pick out the murderers, but he would have already done that. Yeah, there's nothing he can do for that.
And Ali tells him, what brought you? And Zubair says, we came to revenge the death of Uthman. So then Ali says, may Allah kill those who murdered Uthman. Did you not pledge to me? And Zubair tells him that I pledged to you with the sword at my neck. You fight against me and Ammar is with me. So then Zubair was quiet. He tells him, oh Zubair, do you remember when you passed with the Messenger of Allah? So he looked at me, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, looked at Ali and smiled. So I smiled back at him. And you said, the son of Abi Talib doesn't stop his boasting. So then the Prophet ﷺ said to you, Ali is telling him, he is not boasting, and wallahi you will fight him while you are the oppressor. So then Zubair radiallahu anhu said, wallahi I have forgotten. This was 30 years ago. He had forgotten this incident. So he was so moved by this and so shocked by it. So he leaves the battlefield. And he doesn't want to fight anyone. The army of Ali radiallahu anhu, when the fighting took place, of all the people in the army of Mecca, they were afraid of Zubair and Abdullah ibn Zubair, his son, and a man by the name of Ibn Yathribi. These 3 warriors. And the army of Basra, the army of Aisha and Talha and Zubair, they only feared Ali and Al-Qa'qa' ibn Amr al-Tamimi and Al-Ashtar al-Nukhai. These 3 fierce warriors. So they were afraid of those people. So when Zubair radiallahu anhu leaves the battlefield, son Abdullah hears the news and he goes to his father. He tells him, oh father, where to? And Zubair says, wallahi I will not fight them. He says, oh father, you gathered the people, then you run away? And he tells him, leave me alone. And then Abdullah, his son, tells him, perhaps you are afraid of the swords of Bani Abdul Muttalib. So then his father becomes angry. He tells him, Wallahi, there is not a handspan on my body except that there is a wound in the way of Allah, even my private part. Accusing me of being afraid. So he leaves, radiallahu anhu. And when he left, a man by the name of Ibn Jurmuz followed him. And when he comes near him, they're on their way to Mecca, Al-Zubair turned around, and when he saw Ibn Jurmuz, he says, I see death in his face, meaning he's coming to kill me. And the servant who is with Al-Zubair, traveling with Al-Zubair, says, kill him then. Before he kills you, kill him. So then Al-Zubair radiallahu anhu says, but with what excuse should I kill him? So then Ibn Jurmuz comes to him, and he tells him that I want your companionship on this journey. So then Al-Zubair let him join them. And when it was time for Salah, Al-Zubair radiallahu anhu said, As-Salah. And Ibn Jurmuz said, As-Salah. And then Al-Zubair radiallahu anhu advanced ahead, and the servant and Ibn Jurmuz were in the back. And as soon as he made takbir radiallahu anhu, Ibn Jurmuz attacked him with his knife, and he killed him. And then he took his armor and his shield and his sword. And even though this great man is one of the 10 given glad tidings of paradise, he murders him in such a way while he's praying. So we move now to the battle of Al-Jamal. Ibn Yathribi comes out, and he was one of the most feared, and he challenges who wants to come out to fight him. So the first man goes out to him, and he kills him. And the second man from the army of Ali goes out to him and kills him again. And the third man from the army of Ali radiallahu anhu goes out, kills him. So then everyone's afraid of him. So then Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu, who was 90 years old at the time, went out to him.
What?
So when he went out, everyone started to say, Yarhamullah, he's going to die, may Allah have mercy on him. When he reaches him, Ibn Yathribi attacks him. And he swings at him with his sword, and Ammar blocks it with his shield. His sword gets stuck in the shield, and he's not able to pull it out. So then Ammar radiallahu anhu strikes his leg, and he takes him captive to Ali. And when he gets there, he's asking to be forgiven, and then Ali radiallahu anhu tells him, you killed 3 and now you want to be forgiven? And he had him killed. Meanwhile, when the battle was going on, Ali radiallahu anhu can't believe that the Sahaba are fighting each other. This is the first time that this has happened so far. So he stays away from the battlefield, and he's praying and he's crying all the time behind the army. And leading the army instead of him was Al-Ashtar al-Nukh'i, and he was also a very fierce warrior. The army of Aisha radiallahu anha was being led by Abdurrahman ibn Utayb ibn Usayd. Talhah radiallahu anhu was also behind the army, and on this side Ali is behind his army. And Aisha radiallahu anha is in Basra, because after the peace that they made, she went and she stayed in a house in Basra. So she's not there in the battlefield at the moment. So Ibn Jurmuz then comes to the tent of Ali radiallahu anhu. And the Ibn Jurmuz is the man, remember, who killed Al-Zubair. So he tells him, what is it that you have? And the man says, I have the good news. So he gave him the sword and the shield of Al-Zubair radiallahu anhu. And Ali radiallahu anhu, he looks at it and he starts to cry. He says, and how many times has this sword defended the face of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So the guard goes out to him and he tells him, Ali says, give the killer of the son of Safiya the news of the hellfire. So the man becomes afraid and he runs away. And some companions later on, they hear of this, so they follow him. And when they came close to him, Ibn Jurmuz says, if we fight with you, and if we kill with you, we are in the hellfire. And if we fight you, we're in the hellfire. So he takes his sword and he kills himself. Meanwhile, the battle is still continuing. And Ka'b ibn Sur, if you remember him, the judge who went to Medina to find out if the pledge was by force or not, he left the battlefield and he ran back to Basra, to Aisha radiallahu anha. Aisha doesn't know radiallahu anha that the people are fighting right now. So she goes and they put a hawdaj on the camel, and they cover the hawdaj with armor, and they cover the camel with armor, and he takes her out to the battlefield. He leads the camel into the battlefield, hoping that if the people see her, they're going to stop the fighting. When she arrives, the people saw the camel and they knew that Aisha radiallahu anha was inside the camel. And she called Ka'b and said, leave the camel and take the Mus'haf, the book of Allah, and go out and call people to the judgment of the book of Allah. Stop the fighting. So the people of Fitna, they felt that this is going to stop the fighting and then they're going to be uncovered again. So they yelled, get the camel and get Ka'b. As soon as he lifted the Mus'haf to call to the people, they shot him with arrows and killed him radiallahu anhu. So then the people of the Fitna started to yell, go towards the camel. So Aisha yells at them to stop the fight.
Haven't these people at least been figured out? You're always seeing like certain people instigating another fight. Like, aren't they, can't the people in this army say, you know, every time there's peace or every time there's this, suddenly they're on top of it. There was a, you know, they tried to sneak into the camp and killed us, so they attacked them. They're always doing something. Can't people look at it and go, listen, they're either on top of their game in defending us, or they're the reason and they're the cause of all this. You can't, you have to eventually look over and say, you know, there's a peace going on in an extent, but the peace is always ended by these guys. They're just, I'm getting annoyed. I want these people killed.
Fighting, and Ali radiallahu anhu is yelling, stop the fighting. And the people of Fitna are continuing, and they make it more intense, so people are forced to defend themselves and fight back. And then Aisha saw that the fighting is not going to stop, so she starts to make dua out loud. Oh Allah, curse the murderers of Uthman. Oh Allah, curse the murderers of Uthman. The people hear that, and the whole army starts to say that. And then Ali radiallahu anhu heard, and he gets up radiallahu anhu, and he begins to say the same thing. Oh Allah, curse the murderers of Uthman. So both armies are now fighting, and both of them are calling for the curse of Allah on the murderers of Uthman. So then Abdullah ibn Utab, as we said, the emir of the army of Aisha and Talhah and Zubair, he begins to move the camel away from the battlefield. And the people of Fitna want to bring down the camel. See how wicked they are. So he takes it by the reins, and the people of Fitna head towards the camel until they killed Abdurrahman ibn Utab ibn Usayd. So then another companion takes the camel, and he's killed, and another takes it and he is killed. And then Talha radiallahu anhu started to make dua. This is behind the battlefield. He says, Allahumma, make me a sacrifice for Uthman. If I have not done enough for his death, then avenge from me. So an arrow then suddenly comes flying, and it hit him in his knee joint, and it struck a major vein, and blood starts to flow. Then Al-Qa'qa' from the army of Ali radiallahu anhu comes to Talha, and he says, Ya Aba Muhammad, you're wounded. They were fighting for what they believed to be the truth, but they didn't have hatred for each other or anything like that. So the servant removes Talha radiallahu anhu from the battlefield, and they puts him in an abandoned home, and there dies Talha ibn Ubaidullah radiallahu anhu, one of the 10 given glad tidings of paradise. So the battle is still continuing, and the fighting becomes more fierce. So then the people of Fitna start to yell, to strike the limbs. Everyone around the camel, this is where the battle is the fiercest at, they're fighting and limbs are being cut, so much so that they describe saying that you wouldn't know whose hand this was and whose leg this was. Hundreds of limbs being cut, left and right. So here Abdullah ibn Zubair advances, and he takes hold of the camel, and he orders his army to attack the standard of the army of Ali. And then the fighting is fierce in two areas, around the standard of the army of Ali radiallahu anhu, and around the camel of Aisha radiallahu anha. And the standard of Ali falls 10 times. So Al-Ashtar al-Nukh'i then he felt that the army is being defeated, and he's on the side of Ali. And then Al-Ashtar leaves the battlefield, and he goes to Ali radiallahu anhu, and he tells him, Oh Ali, help us, for wallahi we have seen defeat, and wallahi if you don't come to the battlefield we'll be defeated. So Ali radiallahu anhu got up, and he went out to the battlefield, and this rekindles their hope. People start shooting arrows at the camel of Aisha radiallahu anha. And Ali radiallahu anhu is telling them to leave the camel alone, but the people of Fitna don't obey him. Then Al-Ashtar and Al-Qa'qa' they advance at the head of a regiment towards the camel. And Ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu is protecting the camel. So then Al-Ashtar comes to fight Abdullah ibn Zubair. We have two warriors, two champions, and known to be great heroes in battle, fighting against each other. And they're both the leaders of the armies. So Abdullah ibn Zubair says, Wallahi, I have never seen the likes of the fighting of Al-Ashtar. He says, I did not hit him once, except that he hits me back 6 or 7 times. And this is Abdullah ibn Zubair speaking. So Al-Ashtar was a fantastic warrior. So Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu starts to lose. And even though he's wearing an armor, he gets 37 wounds from Al-Ashtar.
Holy hell.
And Ashtar lifted the sword and he brought it down and struck the head of Abdullah ibn Zubair until he cracked his helmet and cracked his skull. And Abdullah ibn Zubair was about to die. He's going to be defeated. So when he saw that he's about to die, he jumped off of his horse and jumped on Al-Ashtar and embraced him hard and felled him to the floor and just held him in his place. And he started to yell, kill me and Malik with me. Kill me along with Malik. Abdullah ibn Zubair is not able to say kill me and Al-Ashtar. He just said Malik. And Al-Ashtar says about this, he says, I would not love to have the whole world if he would have said Al-Ashtar. Wallahi, if he said Al-Ashtar, 1,000 swords would have struck me. Ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu is still holding on to him. So then a friend of Ibn Zubair comes and he pulls him out from underneath Al-Ashtar, and Al-Ashtar immediately went away. So then Ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu was removed and he was severely wounded, so he was taken to Basra. And another companion took the camel and he was killed until 70 Sahaba were killed at the camel. Then Al-Qa'qa' and Al-Ashtar reached the camel, and Al-Qa'qa' was afraid for Aisha radiallahu anha, and he feared that more of the Sahaba will get killed. He starts to yell to everyone to pull back. Muhammad ibn Talhah came and he took the camel, and he was killed as well, the son of Talhah ibn Ubaydullah. So Al-Qa'qa' then began to call people to retreat, and he called them to take the camel and go away, take the camel and leave with it. So a man by the name of Zufar ibn al-Harith took the camel, and Al-Qa'qa' yells to him, strike the camel, the legs of the camel, so it may fall and end the battle. So Zufar and another man named Bujair, they struck the legs of the camel, and the camel fell. When the camel falls, the army of Ali still comes to attack, and then Al-Qa'qa' stands in their path, and he says, we have given them pardon. So then the fighting finally stops. Al-Qa'qa' was the hero here. He stopped the massacre, and then Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr comes with him, and Ammar ibn Yasir, and then they cut the ropes of the Hawdaj, and then they put it down, and then they put a tent over it. So then Ali radiallahu anhu comes to see the situation of Aisha. So then he comes and he asks them, is she wounded? And they say no. And he enters into her tent, and she's still inside the Hawdaj, and he tells her, Assalamu alaikum ya ummah, and she says, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Then he asks her, how are you? And she says, I am fine. And then he tells her, Ya Allah, have mercy on you. And she tells him, and on you. And then he orders Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr and Ammar ibn Yasir to take her into the town, into Basra. And then Ali radiallahu anhu sends orders, you're not to kill a wounded person, nor to chase anyone who has run away from the battlefield, nor to take any captives. So the people of the Fitna become upset. They said, you make their blood halal, but not their women and their wealth? Ali radiallahu anhu, in his wisdom, then he asked him a question. He tells him, which of you wants Aisha to fall to his share? So they were quiet. He tells them again, no captives, no spoils, no killing of the wounded, and no killing of people who run away. So no spoils at all were taken or distributed amongst either of the army. Ali radiallahu anhu orders the dead from both armies to be gathered for prayer and for burial, and he leads the prayers himself, the funeral prayers radiallahu anhu. And the total of the number of people who died during this battle were 10,000, 5,000 from each army. And Ali radiallahu anhu would walk around the dead, looking at who's dead. And then he reached Ka'b ibn Sur, the judge of Basra, one of the scholars of the Ummah. So Ali radiallahu anhu, when he saw him, he started to cry. He said, how could they say only the layman came out with them, and this great scholar is amongst them? And then he saw Muhammad ibn Talhah, the son of Talhah radiallahu anhu. And when he saw him, Ali radiallahu anhu began to cry a lot and said, this is the one whom we used to call as-Sajjad because of how much he prostrates to Allah. And now he's murdered here. And then he went to Basra and he heard of the death of Talhah ibn Ubaydullah, and he took the head of Talhah and put it on his lap. And he removed the dust from the face of Talhah radiallahu anhu, and he began to cry, and his voice was raised in crying. Then he goes to where Ibn Zubair was, Abdullah ibn Zubair. Remember, he was wounded during the battle severely, and he enters upon him and he embraces him, and Ibn Zubair can barely move, and he makes dua for him, and he tells him, may Allah have mercy on you, O son of my brother. What brought you back? He says, we came to take revenge from the murderers of Uthman. And then Ali told him, may Allah kill the murderers of Uthman. And then Ali radiallahu anhu remains for 3 days outside of Basra, and then he enters it and he prays in the masjid, and the people come to give him bay'ah. So people come by the hundreds and they start to pledge to Ali radiallahu anhu. And then he goes to the house of Abdullah ibn Khalaf. He was one of the leaders there, and he had a large house, and this is where Aisha radiallahu anha was staying, and where all the wounded and from the armies were staying there also. So when he enters, he finds women there, and the women there were crying over the death of Uthman and Abdullah, the sons of Khalaf. So then a woman of the relatives, her name was Safiya bint al-Harith, she was crying, and when she saw Ali radiallahu anha enter, she said, "O Ali, O killer of the loved ones, O the one who split the unity, may Allah make your children orphans as you have done to the sons of Abdullah." So then Ali radiallahu anhu did not respond to her, and he entered.
I don't know what could he say. He's in a bad position. I would like to see him do more. Let me restate that. I wish that he would have done more to root out. But I don't know if he knows that they're in his army. Oh, that's a tricky one, because I don't know what he knows. None of us can know what he knows. He must not know that they are in his army, though. But I can't say Aisha knows that either. She just sees it like he's protecting them, which, and in a way it does look like it, but he's protecting them, but not realizing that he's protecting them because they're in his military. Yeah, it's just a terrible position. I actually feel bad for him more now, because he is trying to do the right thing. He just doesn't realize that by trying to do the right thing, passing that message along to his people, the bad people are picking up on it, and they're saying, we can't allow this. And it's just...
upon Aisha, and he sat down, and then he made dua for Aisha radiallahu anha, and he asked her if she needed anything, and she said no, and then he left. Then when he left again, Safiya bint al-Harith again, she saw him, and she made dua against him, and she spoke very harshly to him. So then he tells her, he said, I considered to open these doors and kill the ones behind them. So he's telling her, I know who's behind these doors. These were the people that fought against me. And if you think I'm a brutal person as you thought, I would open these doors and kill the people who were wounded in there. She understood that he was a good man. He was a righteous man. So she remained quiet. So then a man from Al-Uzd, he heard this, the way she spoke to Ali, and it upset him. And he said, Wallahi, we won't let this woman get away with this.
Oh no.
So then Ali radiallahu anhu becomes angry with this man. He tells him, be quiet. And he tells him, let me not hear of anyone who harms any woman, except that I will give him to the worst of people. And then a man came after him saying, if this is your view, if I saw two men at the door insulting a woman dearer to you than Safiya. So then Ali tells him, woe to you, I hope it's not Aisha. He said yes. So he went and he found them insulting her. So then Ali called Al-Qa'qa'. Al-Qa'qa' came with a group, and Al-Qa'qa' said, do you want me to strike their necks? And Ali says no, but punish them. And then Ali radiallahu anhu prepares Aisha with all that she needs for travel. And he chose 40 women, so she doesn't travel alone. 40 women of the noblest of the people of Basra to leave with their husbands just to accompany Aisha radiallahu anha. And on the day of her departure, which was Saturday, the 1st of Rajab, in the 36th year after the Hijrah, all of Basra goes out to bid her farewell. And Ali radiallahu anhu himself goes out and he walks near her animal for miles. He's walking, bidding her farewell. And so she calls on the people and she praises Allah, and she sends the salah and the salam upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she makes dua for the people of Basra. And then she says, O children, some of us have transgressed against each other because of delaying and hastening. Delaying to give the bay'ah and hastening, rushing to punish the murderers of Uthman. So do not transgress against each other with anything of that. And then she says, we are neither enemies to Ali nor is Ali an enemy to us. Wallahi, there is nothing between me and Ali except what small quarrels are between a woman and family members. And she says that with me, he is amongst the best of the people. She says this publicly to the people of Basra. And then Ali radiallahu anhu says, O people, by Allah, she spoke the truth. Nothing was between us except the small quarrels that's between family members. And then he said, and she is the wife of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this world and in the next. And then Ali radiallahu anhu returns to Basra. He puts as governor of Al-Basra Abdullah ibn Abbas.
I don't know what it was, but like we're not enemies. It was just a quarrel between family. I felt a lump in my throat. She's in a bad position too, because she wants to, get revenge for a good man, and they're both in just terrible positions. They both want the same thing, but they don't want the violence, the death, because something else you got to think of. You're going to punish the fitna, but in that punishment, if they're getting rooted out, what's to say they're not going to say, well, yeah, that person over there, and they helped. Well, now innocent people are getting dragged into this. You know what I mean? And now you're running the risk of killing people that may or may not have had anything to do with it. Man, it's just such a tough position. Such a tough position.
And he orders those who left Medina with him to get ready to travel back. And he left at the end of Rajab in the 36th year after the Hijrah, and he leaves to Kufa, and he makes Kufa his capital, radiallahu anhu. So now just about everywhere is under the reign and under the Khilafah of Ali. We have Yemen and Egypt and Khurasan and Faris and Iraq and Mecca and Medina, everywhere except Sham. So now we move to the events that led to the Battle of Siffin.
I was just about to see how long it was going to be until the next one. I'm going to guess this one will probably go ahead and carry out the rest of the time. Yeah, you're just here with me right now. This is happening. We're doing this together. Yep. Ooh, that one didn't look good. No, I don't like that. Okay, so that was part 4. And now we're going to get to the Battle of Siffin. Got a feeling it's not going to be a good one. Alright, like and subscribe. If you don't like the video, go ahead and like and subscribe anyways. Just teach me a lesson, you know what I mean? And then, until next time, have a good day, have a good night.